Welcome to our new and innovative podcasting series. I'm Nora Almazan, and we're sitting on the beautiful square of Clarksville, Georgia. And today we're talking to Diane Black-Brown and Kristy Ivester Bennett of the Norton Agency. And I am so excited to have you ladies today.
We are so happy to be here.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this. Needless to say, I'm not an entertainer I am a talker, but maybe not an entertainer. But yeah, we're very happy to be here and to have the opportunity.
I am so excited to have you ladies here today. Diane, tell me a little bit about the Norton Agency and also a little bit about your role there.
The Norton Agency is a family business. It was started in 1928. By W.L. Norton Sr. And it has grown and grown and grown since that point in time. We're an independent agency, so we're not a franchise. We cover predominantly Northeast Georgia, but really we're all over the state, particularly commercial real estate, and the surrounding states as well, Alabama, Tennessee, North South Carolina, and Florida. So
now, 1928, was Mr. Norton, was he from Habersham?
He was originally from White County. And then I think I understand that when the Depression hit, they moved to Gainesville. And then that's when he began the insurance and real estate business.
So you guys are coming up on 100 years.
Yes. Absolutely.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Now, Diane, what is your role there at Norton?
I am a broker partner. Have been, I feel like all my life, but but not really. Since 1989 is when we kind of put ourselves together. I was a very small company here, and I could certainly expand the footprint by joining the Norton Agency.
And you've been in real estate since, you said, 1978?
Yes.
So you've seen a lot of changes.
Ooh.
A lot of changes. And that's something we're going to talk about today as well. But I wanted to introduce Kristy Ivester Bennett, and you are with the Norton Agency. And how long have you been a realtor?
So I've been a real estate agent since 2002. And I've been with the Norton Agency since 2006. I joined the fall of that year.
Wow. And you got, and one of the most important things I think for those of you who are listening is if you are wanting to buy a house, today is the day to talk to these ladies and to listen very carefully to their advice. So Diane, over the years, tell me the changes you have seen in real estate.
Oh, my goodness. When I think back, even to, we did not have what we call Midway, which is now down around the area with Lowe's, and in that area was nothing. It was farmland. I remember one home sitting on a knoll, which is a beautiful home. And then after that, then things just started going and going and going. Because I remember it was my senior year in high school, and we had this huge snow. And so we all went down to what used to be Piedmont Golf Course, because they had just this great hill, But it was not until then that road was paved. It was gravel up until 1966 or thereabout.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And we're referring to the Lowe's that's right there on 441 as you're headed in, you're leaving Cornelia, you're headed into Demarest. All of that used to be farmland.
Yes, all of it.
That is amazing.
It's been several years, but still, just how the whole county, the appearance, the vision, of what used to be. I'm sorry now that there were not many, many photographs taken to where we would have that now to compare to yesteryear.
The growth.
Yes.
Which has been tremendous, and more is coming.
More is coming.
So as people are preparing to buy a home, I know that there are people that are going to be moving to this area because of the inland port and a lot of the development that's coming our way. As you're approaching buying homes, prices on homes right now are pretty high.
They've changed drastically. One thing that I thought about was when I was first licensed in 2002, the average sale price in Habersham County at that time was around $140,000. I remember whenever we would see listings and they would have a mobile home and they would list it for around $200,000, and we thought they're never going to get that price for that piece of property. And now the prices mid 200s, upper 200s for mobile homes. So now fast forward to 2025 and the average sale price is around $400,000 in Habersham County. So it's changed so much throughout the years that I've been doing real estate.
And you talked about the neighborhood in which you live in.
Yes. So the neighborhood, I've been there since 2011. Typically, the homes in there were always valued around $150,000, $175,000. And in the last probably 3 years, we've had a number of homes sell in there. And those have all been selling for anywhere from $300,000 to $325,000. So it's shifted drastically just in the last, 5, 6, 7 years.
Diane, what's the driving force behind this? Is it lack of inventory? Is it what's driving these prices up?
Lack of inventory. It's difficult for a builder to build a home and keep it in a price range that the average income earner can afford to buy. So therefore, there are fewer homes, although we're beginning to pick up with new home builds. But it's still difficult because now, the square foot cost for an average home could be $300 square foot.
And when is that? I mean, we've seen this. These are recent changes.
Yes.
Like when would you say it really started going up?
COVID, 2020.
Uh-huh.
That's when the world went crazy. There were people that were actually purchasing property sight unseen in this area. And I'm not talking about small. I'm talking about $1 million properties.
Wow.
But they were so desperate to get out of the metropolitan area, Chicago, New York, Boston, all those areas, they were clamoring to get south.
That makes sense.
And to have space. That was the main thing, space.
Exactly. And that's why we all love living here. So, Kristy, tell me this. If I'm wanting to buy a house, what do I need to do first?
The first thing you need to do is speak with a lender. And I would highly recommend that you speak with someone that's local. A lot of buyers see things online and they get sucked into these online lenders. I've had buyers in the past that have done that. We get along in the process and things that should have been uncovered in their credit history or things that would be a holdup to them purchasing, it comes out too late. And if they were with a reputable local lender, that those things wouldn't have happened. So that is the first thing that I would highly recommend any buyer do. You've got to find out what you can afford. One of the worst things that ever happened to me, I had not been licensed that long. I had a young couple that I was working with. I took them to look at houses. We found a couple they liked, one the wife really fell in love with. They went then to talk to a lender and found out they couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And I still remember the husband calling me and I could hear his wife crying in the background.
Aww.
And it was very sad. So that was a good learning experience for me as a new agent to always, I have had buyers tell me, well, we just want to see what's on the market right now before we go and talk to a lender. We don't want to give any of our information. But that's really the biggest mistake that you can do, is to get the cart before the horse, so to speak.
And Diane, how do you know what you can afford?
Well, it's all based on your income and your debt that you have. And there's a ratio that lenders look at, that your income to debt ratio is so out of kilter that you can't afford a mortgage payment, or a mortgage payment that's higher than what you might currently have.
And so your lender is going to say, you know, you can afford a house around 150, and that really guides the realtor.
Yes.
Because then you don't fall in love with the $500,000
Yes,
home.
Exactly. And it's not just about the price point. It's about what type of loan is best for them. Are they going to be putting 10% down? Do they have any money to put down? Are they going to go USDA where there's no down payment? Can they put down 3.5%? So there's FHA. There's so many different types of loans. Even a lot of local banks have in-house loans that might be better for that individual. And you don't know until you go and you speak to them, and sometimes you don't even have to sit down. You can just have a phone call. Most all the applications are online now. So it's a very convenient process. You don't have to take time off of work to go and make an appointment and sit down with somebody. You can just have a quick conversation with them and do everything basically online.
And so then the lender will give you like a pre-qualification letter. And then what, Diane? What's your next step?
Next step would be to find a realtor, and that person go out and start looking at homes. But I would say this. I think that it's important for a buyer to speak to maybe more than one realtor, because personalities, we all have personalities, and a buyer may feel far more comfortable with one agent over another. So it's relationship, because you need to build that so you have credibility. And the buyer or sellers, they have to have confidence in you that you are going to give them the best service that you can, and guide them in the right direction.
And so if I call Norton and I'm looking for a realtor, what are you going to tell me? Like, how do y'all choose which realtor the customer might be better served?
It's easier on a referral that might come in, because you can question, the referring agent. Well, what age are the people? Do they have small children? What's going to be important to them? And so generally, if someone that's younger with children, Kristy's a perfect fit. Older people, not that she wouldn't be qualified, but an older person moving to a new area might want to have an older agent so that they can converse about what's important to them and what it's like living here, about the services, medical services, entertainment.
Yeah, those are very important issues that you might not even think about.
Right.
So Kristy, what are some things that they ought to look like school districts and things like that? What should they be looking at?
So basically, when they speak with that lender, I'm going to talk with the lender and get their letter, find out their price range, find out what type of loan that property needs to qualify for as well. So a lot of times, yes, they want specific school districts, certain distances to wherever their jobs are. If they have different hobbies, they may want to be closer to hiking trails, things like that. Doctors is a big thing. So they will ask, what type of hospitals do you have here? How far is the drive, say, to Gainesville? Close proximity to the 4-lane. That was a huge change just in the last 20, 25 years. I remember as a kid, because I grew up here in Habersham, whenever they put the 4-lane from Gainesville up to was it Cornelia?
Cornelia's
At the time,
yeah,
how that opened up so many doors. Then whenever they did it from Cornelia up to Tallulah Falls, that was huge. So many changes have brought so many people to the area, but it's made it a lot more convenient for them to live outside, say, Gainesville. Hall County has exploded the last few years. So it's made it a lot more convenient having those interstates. They can live in South Habersham, hop right back on the interstate and be back into even Gwinnett in good time. So many changes have brought so many positive things to our area.
I would think that you kind of become personal with the people that you're representative.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
you would have to.
Yes.
Do you have any kind of memory of a particular sale that just meant the world to you?
Yes, I can tell you exactly. It was a Hispanic family, and this was back in the, oh my gosh, early 90s. And he came in, and I don't know, we just meshed, and he did not know whether he could afford to buy a home or not. And so we started talking, and of course he had a large family. And I said, well, you know what? I think you might be shortchanging yourself. I think you probably can. So put him in touch with a lender, and sure enough, he was able to buy a home. And that was the happiest day to see that family beaming from having their own home that they had never had the opportunity. And I still see him occasionally, and we always catch up, on who's doing what. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, absolutely. I do remember that one.
Closing day has to be exciting and emotional, and
Yes.
giving those keys to them has to be really, really neat.
Yes.
What about you, Kristy? Do you have a?
There's so many. One that comes to mind is kind of something similar. It was a young family, and at closing, they told me no one in their family had ever owned a home before.
Wow.
They were the first people. And it was just such an eye-opener that I was able to help them achieve such a huge goal. So it's one of the best things that compliments that I guess we can get is referrals from all of our folks that we work with. And that's one of the biggest parts of our business once we've been in the business is building off of that network. One of the first things I tell new agents is create your database. Everybody keep in contact with them, go see them, call them, get to where you're part of their lives. There's so many people that I've sold properties to and have been repeat customers. One of the things that I thought about, there's a family and their daughter actually went to school with my niece years ago. So sometimes they're kind of frozen. When you go to the closing table, they're kind of that age of that child is frozen in your mind. The next time I had contact with them or actually saw them, their daughter was married.
Wow.
And I've been able to help the moms, the dads, then their kids. I've watched them grow up, but then being able to help them purchase property. There's one family that I've helped, I think 3 generations now.
Wow.
And it's just such a special thing to be able to be a part of people's lives like that.
So from start to finish, what should people anticipate? A lot of times you think it's going to go really quickly. You also don't think that you're going to have to do so much work. But there is a lot of work in getting a mortgage and finding a home. So Start to finish, what do you think?
I think that the most important thing for it to not become like some people, it's been nightmarish for them to try to get into a home, to have the right realtor, the right lender, and things can go much, much, much better than just kind of striking out on your own. Because I do want to say this, like Kristy said, a local lender is so important because we have both had transactions where it was an internet lender and you can't talk to anybody. if you have a problem, you call and it's a black hole. And they will not call you back. So a local lender, they're going to call you back because they're hometown.
They're going to see you in Walmart,
Sure.
so they better call you back.
Right.
Right.
I guess, so to speak, they have real skin in the game like we do. So that to me is very, very important. Very.
And so as we're approaching buying a home and everything, what are some things to avoid? Like, in other words, withdrawing a large amount of money from your checking account, or having a large amount put in there, or what are some things that are just kind of like obvious no-nos? Going out and buying a new car.
Yes, no big purchases. That's a huge, huge thing. One thing that I had thought about too, that when we were talking about, I always I tell a home buyer or even a home seller, whenever you start on that journey, that it's kind of like to me, it's like you're running and you're jumping hurdles. And so whenever you're a home buyer, you get that pre-approval letter, you start looking, you pick out the house. Okay, now you're running. You're really running. And so the first hurdle is going to be that home inspection that you want to get. Because sometimes you have to go back and negotiate terms. You might ask for a price reduction. You may ask for, certain repairs. Okay, you've gotten over that first hurdle. You're still running because you're not at the finish line yet. The next one is usually the appraisal. So you're at the next hurdle. Sometimes you have to work through that. So sometimes it's not smooth sailing like you're just, on a freeway running. I always envision it as you've got to get over the hurdles. And once you usually get past the appraisal, then it's okay. We make sure our title's clear. That's, your closing attorney is going to do that title search. If there's anything that comes up, you've got to get that over that next hurdle to get to the finish line, to the closing date, which is where we all want to be. So that's kind of how I envision the whole process. And that's how I explain it to home buyers, is we've got to get past these hurdles. Once you get over the hurdle, there's just a couple more. Then you get over the next one. You just usually got one more. But it takes, it's a group effort. It takes the lender, the buyer, the agents, the seller, the attorney, all working together to make it happen for the buyer and seller.
And Diane, why should we choose Norton?
Well, one, we're the largest independent insurance and real estate company in the state. And we have resources available to us because we're gathering data all the time. And so if you need information and we don't have it just off the cusp, then we have the ability to find it.
Mm-hmm. But on a personal level,
it's like a family.
I feel the same way. I would totally agree with that. It is like a family there. And you're helping your neighbors.
Yes.
Or your soon-to-be neighbors.
Right.
When people come in.
Yeah.
And I think that many agencies don't have that personal touch like you guys do.
Well, we have so many of our agents. I mean, we have agents that have moved in, of course, from other areas, but there are a lot of what I call natives that have actually grown up in the county where they're working, maybe, or at least in Northeast Georgia. So that's important, that a seller or a buyer that is not originally from here can gain information or history even from an agency that's been around since 1928. That's a long time.
I know. They know the people who've lived in the house you want to buy.
Exactly.
And people before that.
Right.
And people before that.
For sellers, I think it's important if they can see a way to have an inspection done on their home before listing. That way they know the issues that an inspector is likely going to find for a buyer. they can address those up front and circumvent possibly having to renegotiate with a buyer after they're under contract.
That's such good advice, because at that point the seller can choose to fix the problem,
Right.
or they can come forward and say, this is, I've got a leaky roof or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it really, you go in knowing what you're going to deal with, or hopefully not deal with. But after you're under contract, to go back and renegotiate is not a good place to be for a seller.
That's good advice. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
We enjoyed it.
We've been talking to the Norton Agency, Diane Black-Brown and Kristy Ivester Bennett. And we can't wait to have you guys back.
Yeah, it's great.
We look forward to it. It's been fun.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.